Let's talk about commands. The significance of commands cannot be overlooked. Commands serve as the communication mechanism from the referee to the various participants within a given match. And initially that may be confusing because you think of the competitors as the only participants, but I'll elaborate. The command is broken up into verbal commands and physical gestures. The verbal commands serve as the communication mechanism specifically with the competitors. They're in the closest proximity to the referee, and because they're engaged in actual grappling, it's unlikely that they would have the ability to see what the referee was physically doing. Interestingly enough, other grappling sports like sambo and wrestling extend verbal commands to include a whistle. And that's just not something that's ever been adopted in gi and no-gi grappling. And I guess the disadvantage of whistles could be having mats in close proximity. With whistles going off all day, sometimes it's challenging to discern where the whistle came from, and it could create some chaos in itself. That may be the reason. But understand that that is also an extension of a verbal command. Physical commands, again, are for those that are not in such close proximity, and I think of primarily the table, which has scorekeeping and timekeeping responsibilities. In a crowded and loud arena, it's not reliable that verbal commands could effectively convey scoring and penalties to the table. Another participant that benefits from physical gestures are coaches, who are located somewhere between the edge of the mat and perhaps further back, maybe behind a barrier. The physical gestures help keep them in touch with what's being articulated so they can offer the correct advice to their competitor. Not to be forgotten are the spectators themselves, who are at the greatest distance within an arena, perhaps not focused on a single mat but on multiple mats. By having consistent physical gestures, they're able to participate in the match for entertainment purposes, for educational purposes, to understand what exactly is transpiring. This would include spectating video after the fact, where oftentimes the scoreboard is not visible, and the only means you have of knowing what's going on, what's being scored, is by watching what the referee physically gestures. The challenge for organizations is, are they telling the referees specifically how they should be gesturing? The de facto organization is the IBJJF, who in their rules, not only in writing but also in pictures, very effectively articulates what the commands are, and they probably have the most highly polished and accomplished officiating team in employing commands. The challenge for those organizations that don't tell their referees is that they're going to get a very inconsistent look from mat to mat, from ref to ref, in how they're, again, conveying communications to the various participants, and that's going to impact the enjoyment of all those that are involved. So it's important that tournaments, educate their referees appropriately. Now, there's nothing wrong with adopting the federation's commands. I mean, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but it has to be something that's articulated to them and consistent to give off that highly polished and uniform look. The challenge for referees that even understand what the commands are is that inexperienced referees are often so focused on the action and the implication of the rules themselves that the commands become multitasking for them, and they often get pushed behind their focus on the actual match and the action. And because of that, there's a greater chance of mistakes and chaos ensuing because they lose connection with those other participants, particularly the table. And when you can't effectively articulate what you're doing to the table, or certainly to the competitors, getting them to do the right thing, that's going to cause a problem, and chaos will ensue. So all these things are important when I think of commands being part of a referee's responsibility, and again, the tournament's responsibility for making sure that for all the participants that those are clear and consistent.